Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all.
Hello and welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Clarkson. I know, it's me, it's James. And welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me is co-host and producer
Sam, let's see if that is a short enough gap in between there for no one to know.
I want to know what.
Exactly, James. Exactly. How are you?
Oh, did you not hit Jeremy Clarkson just introduced us? Did you not?
I was referencing that last week we commented on the fact that I left a massive gap because I just suddenly forgot what I'm supposed to say.
Oh, I thought you were going to cut out the intro. There we are. I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I th this weather's just glorious, isn't it? The only problem is that when you're working in a loft, it's a little bit warm. So having all the windows open is a necessity, but not so great when there's no airflow.
Yeah, it has been nice, although it's cloudier today, and it is supposed to rain on a couple of days' time, which is probably good because my grass is a yellow colour. So yeah, um, I mean, we all got Clarkson back on. He probably tell us about the farming and how he needs some rain for his crops. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like the sunshine. I always do like the sunshine, but I am constantly looking at the sky, going, "Ah, you kind of need a rain." I mean, I don't really want a rain, but we kind of need some rain, mate. Come on.
I don't want to water the plants. If you could rain, that
Yeah,
would be great.
exactly. We need to put the water bill up by 19% to fix the pipes.
What a start. What a start to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. First Jeremy Clarkson, now plants and water bills.
That's it.
What have you been up to hobby-wise this week, James?
What have I been up to hobby-wise this week? Ah, wow. What have I done? Oh, I know. I have. I've done so much modeling. It's enough for another video, but I may hold on to it because I'm going to go to a model show this weekend and then do the model show video, then release that video. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I was working on. Don't want to get the name wrong because it's always nice to promote the little cottage companies. West Cliff Workshops kit, 3D printed kits. So I bought a Talaclin number 6 Douglas and a Talaclin number 5, I think it's called a Brown Marshall coach, brake coach. So it was the coach I was working on. Here it is, here's the lid. I can tell you exactly what it was. Yeah, Brown Marshall coach number 5, as built in its 1866 condition. So I was working on that and a horse and cart for my layout, and I'm very pleased with my horse.
I have seen the horse and it does look really, really good. The blending is exquisite. I think you said you used something like 12 different shades of brown.
I did indeed something like that. Yes, it started off as a very bright orange horse. It was an unusual color for a horse, but it's a good starting color for an undercoat. Yeah, he's all painted. He's not got a name. Well, you can watch the video and then you can comment underneath and suggest a name. Although I have said Horsey McHorseface is taken. I think she starred in Sex and the City or something. But
Don't say that. Steve's going to get really upset that you're slandering Sex in the City.
a glass of wine has either been gulped down very vigorously right now or thrown across the room in a rage, one or the other.
So, the problem is people may think we're joking, but Steve the British Railroader loves Sex in the City and he loves a glass of wine and drama, actually, as it happens. So yeah, next time you see him, just think of them as this sassy New York girl.
That's it. That's it. And he's Jimmy Choos.
Bless you.
Jimmy Choos. You know nothing about fashion. Oh dear.
Well, no, because my instant thing was I thought that was a sweet, like Bubbaloo or something like that, Hubba Bubba. Um,
You're so lucky that fashionable women do not listen to this podcast. They'd be in an outrage at what you're saying right now.
That's not fair. I bet there's plenty of fashionable women who listen to this podcast. It's the men who aren't fashionable. Let's be really honest. I have seen us all at shows, and I can guarantee I've not actually been to the Southampton show, but I would put money on the fact that when we record next week, I will be telling you that we were not a fashionable bunch there. I think Danny is possibly the most fashionable person who will be there.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's we're a scruffy lot.
What was it? What was it? Chris called us in a previous message. He called us hipsters, I think, you and I, which is the funniest thing because you and I are not hip. We have hips, but that's about it.
Yes, well, my hip's gone now. I hit 40. Yeah.
So you've been working on 009 stuff, though. I did see those kits online, and I think that they look really, really nice. I'd love to get a set of their Talaclin coaches after seeing George Williamson build some of them. And you've given me that inspiration of doing a sort of my own. I can't remember what the term is, but my own livery for my narrow gauge railway.
Your own freelance livery, is it?
That's it. Thank you very much. And seeing as you've gone blue, I feel like the best thing for me to do would be to go green.
Green engines, yeah. Well, yellow hasn't been taken. You know, obviously, Scarlow Railway's taken red. The real Talaklin's got green. Or used to be green. I mean, there are all sorts of colours these days, which is very nice. I like the grey on number 4. I mean, it's a beautiful colour.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. Sorry, slip of the tongue there.
I think yeah, yellow's available, purple, but yeah, no, yeah, I'm afraid I went for blue. I took the blue liveries, but yeah, no, it's been good. It's a really nice kit. It is a really nice kit, and it's really and like you can model the doors open, and it's detailed inside. So that's how I've modelled it. I've modelled it with a set of doors open, and then sort of done what everyone else likes to do. Obviously, the chorus fans see it quite a bit when people model them with someone sat on the side. I think you can get a Model U figure that can sit there. I've just got a standard little figure there, but I may replace it with a Model U in the future.
Hmm.
Or the guard just sat on the side, just enjoying the view as he rides along, and then a few items being carried in the van. But it's a very nice kit, and I look forward to working on the Douglas number 6. But I've sort of leaving that for another video because I've got the Percy, and I want to see if that chassis fits. But anyone who watched my 40-year Thomas video that I did last year when I built that little diorama will know that my Bachmann Percy seems to have created a fault where it melted the plastic housing that held the motor in place. So I made new brass housing to hold it. So I'm hoping it will still fit. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try and obtain another Percy, which I think they're sold out everywhere. And even when Rails sent an email out the other day of all the Thomas stuff that's coming from Bachmann, everything was coming bar any new Percys.
It's the most used Thomas loco in N-Gage, isn't it? I think you and George were telling me this. It's used far greater than any other loco, and that's just because those who don't know who are sat at home, the wheel configuration just sits perfectly with 009 locos. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it works really well. It's a really, really good. It's a really good chassis. It runs really well. It's a really nice. If someone wanted to model Thomas, I would recommend the N-Gage range over the OO range. I think they run nicer. They look a bit nicer personally, but yeah, the Percy chassis is absolutely beautiful. I don't know if mine's just a one-off because I've spoken to other people that have had it, and no one else seems to have had this problem where the plastic melted around the motor. Maybe mine's just a dud, but probably
But
should send it to Bachmann to have a look at. but
do you know what would be really good is if there was a different chassis coming out that could maybe be adapted down the line. So one thing that we did miss off last week's news, James, do you want to talk about it as our 009 expert?
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that, but yeah, I was going to ask you what you've been up to first before we got
Oh,
to that.
sorry, that's a good point. I'm ruining the intro this week. So for me, by the time this comes out, you will have probably seen that there's been a new video on my YouTube channel. Don't get used to it, you scrubs. However, I have started construction on my TT gauge layout. And at the time of speaking, I like to. In the previous layout, the fiddle yard was the first thing that I theoretically built, and I think that that's probably a good place to start because that's where most of your stuff is going to be going in and out of, and it's probably the most complex area on your layout. So I've started building the fiddle yard for my TT layout, and as we speak, effectively it comes out of the fiddle yard and it sort of curves to go where the old fiddle yard used to sit in my loft, so on that eaves bit. But then so that's where I've currently got to, and I've got a box of track which is going to bring me all the way up to the other end of the wall. Um, it it looks really nice. I've completely changed the layout of my loft. I'm struggling to figure out where to put the desk, but at the moment it's just sort of sat in the middle of the room. But the whole loft in itself feels so much bigger. I've moved Port Creek over to the side of the loft that hasn't had much use since we moved in, and it looks nice just sort of as a little photo point. So yeah, I've been laying track, and I've unfortunately got to start soldering very, very soon. So that's the next thing on my list.
Ooh, that job.
Oh.
No one likes that job. Yeah, cool. That's cool. There you are. So you're definitely committed to the TT. But,
I hope so. I really hope so.
yes.
Um,
I
I've
say you've sold all your models now. You ain't getting them back.
no, that's very, very true. I do have some bits left, mostly rakes of coaches. If anyone is interested, I
Drop us
apologise
an
to
email.
yeah, drop an email to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I do apologise to anyone who there were some people who might have messaged me over the last few months who were like, "Oh, are you selling up? What's going on?" And I was quite coy with some people. It wasn't deliberate. It was just that I wasn't ready to tell the news to everyone just yet. But I've got several rakes of coaches ready to go. I have a HST power car. I've got an O8 and I've got a Class 50. So the next thing I'm waiting for is I'm going to get another Class 50 and repaint that into Network Southeast. And and then I'll effectively at least have four locos and coaches that can go round the layout when it's finally run. I don't know if I actually said this out loud, but it's going to be a 4-track mainline.
Yeah. Will you be getting a Heli and Deltic though? That's the question.
No, because it's just not for me, and it's not a DP1 situation. I think
Yeah.
the 37 is better, so I would rather get the Class 37 than the Deltic.
I do love a 37, so yeah.
I think it's that thing of I'm in a really nice position where I don't have to do that rushing out to purchase stuff because it might not be here because there's not much stuff available, and I think that's one of the few things that with Double O, I sort of felt like if I saw something, I had to buy it, even if I didn't necessarily have the money, because I might not see it again, kind of thing. Whereas with TT, everything's still so new and fresh that I don't really have to worry
Yeah.
too much. I've done my first,
Good old FOMO, isn't it?
yeah, and I think that was like one of the parts I was really struggling with. And I think the Cali Sleeper stuff, which I do still have, by the way, just to clarify, that's one of the few things that have remained in my collection. That was one of those things where I spent so long searching for that little unicorn that when it finally came up, I sort of bought it, and yeah, I'm too scared to sell it on, to be honest. Well, I have started my first repaint though within TT. I have a rake of Mark One coaches, which I've basically just painted into BR blue and grey.
Ah, nice. Yes. Yeah.
I was a little bit like, well, I've got
I'm I'm glad you've done that because that means that Hornby will be now announcing blue and grey coaches in their next GT announcement. So that's good. Someone had to do it. Someone had to do it so that they could go, "Oh, I've just started painting mine," and because it's difficult because obviously TT's it's an early it's a newborn hobby. It's just coming through, so there's not as many people that can be tricked into painting something because they couldn't wait. So I'm glad you've bitten bitten the bullet and taken one for the team there. So,
I was genuinely surprised that Railtech have so many transfers that are TT ready. So a big massive thank you to Steve from Railtech because I used to use Railtech for all of my EMU transfers and any sort of repaints I was doing for anyone. And I was just having a look at what was available, and that's what made me go, oh, actually, I can start repainting stuff because I don't have to worry about transfers because there's plenty available because of Railtech. Like they do all the Network Southeast stuff for locos. They do the renumbering and the renaming for the Class 50s. I was genuinely surprised with how much stuff there is. There's even stuff for locos that aren't even out yet. So there's Class 47 numbering sets, and I was blown away. So that was sort of the icing on the cake. I went, cool. I'm gonna repaint 6 Mark One coaches into blue and grey. If they bring more out, I can add them to the rakes, or I can sort of buy some more to make 2 rakes and stuff like that. But I thought I'm going to get them done because then I can be one of the first people to do it, and then it means that I've got some Mark One rolling stock that can fit with my layout and it's probably one of the easier repaints to do. I don't know if I'm suicidal enough to do the white line that goes around the grey bit because life's too short.
Get a paint pen, it'd be fine.
Yeah, that I'd have to need a proper fine liner and a ruler.
Now will I notice? It'd be fine.
Yeah.
Just
So,
weather it and just blend it in, isn't it? So,
yeah, exactly. Blue and grey rolling stock was disgusting. So yeah, so that's what I have been up to. So the TT stuff has started. I'm very close to being able to run my first loco out of the fiddle yard and onto the main line, so they say. And hopefully there'll be. Let's go with monthly. Hopefully some like monthly update videos just to sort of show you progress will be a better option than me trying to do the whole weekly video because I think I said it in our little group. I just can't keep up with it. I end up losing interest because I spend more time trying to make a video than I do actually doing the hobby. So there we go. That's what I've been up to hobby wise.
cool. Right. Shall we talk about what Rapido are doing then? Because we barely touched on what they were doing last week. You sort of knew the 009 was coming. We'd found out what they were doing. I think we called it a cider, but it's a cedar. We got
Oh, we called it. Yeah, we did call it cider. Sorry.
a cedar, a cedar. But the looks great with the fact that they're working in conjunction with 4D models. And there's going to be, I think there's about 10 varieties of prints that are going to be able to go with this, with the chassis. So you can buy the chassis as a separate item. So you could scratch build your own locomotive to go on there if you so wished, or 3D printed your own, designed your own, or you can buy one of the 4Ds kits and put that on there. Having used 4Ds kits, because they do the body shells to replace the Thomas locomotives in 009. So if you want to do Dolgok or Talaclin or um, Edward Thomas, number 4, they're all available. And I assume there'll be something for number 3 when Sir Handel arrives, because I think Sir Handel arrives before the Chorus number 3 locomotives arrive. And we're all very impatient. I know I've got a Sir Handel on order. And I'm already waiting for someone to do a print so I can just replace the body. Um, so yeah, I think it's great. And there's sort of all different designs to go with it, and it's really sort of I think it's such a game changer for 009 because I like the fact that Rapido spoke to 009 modelers and then there's like most 009 modelers are freelance, so they're not really following a prototype. They just model what they like and sort of set their own world or their own history. So we've just done generic wagons and that to go with, and now you've got the chassis with these sort of generic body shells that you can just paint up as your own style locomotive. The hardest part was trying to decide which ones I want to buy first. It's I'll probably end up buying a lot.
I think looking on the 4D's website, so there's 10 pictured up the top. They've got a picture of the chassis with the body shell sort of doing a little roundhouse around it, and there's 10 pictured there, but there's only 9 pictured just below, and I think that's because one of them has a tender which isn't pictured below, so I think that's the 10th one that's not there. But you can buy.
I was going to say the tender one's the one I'd probably get first because I want more tender locos for my 009.
But I think the best part is we were talking about the Bachmann Percy, and I think that retails for if you can get a good deal on it. I think Tutilly Thomas is the best place to obtain that chassis now. That's usually about £100 if I remember correctly. But you can get the from the 4D's website. They're offering just the chassis for £67.45, which will become £75 when it comes out. And you can get the chassis, the body shells. The body shells are retailing at £30. So there's some great ones on there, and I think I quite like the Henna or the Dulas as the as the bodies on there. So I think if I was going to pick one up, I was originally tempted by the Rapido normal. Who am I kidding? I'll probably buy both, but I think I'll pick up either Henna or Dulas from the 4D's website as well because it's just gorgeous looking locos, and I think painting them will be really fun as well.
Yes, yeah. The Panya one's tempting because I feel like I just want to paint Great Western one. Just have a Great Western narrow gauge Panya, and then various shops are working in conjunction with Rapido and got their own little ranges coming out. So Rails of Sheffield have like War Department liveried wagon sets. There is, forgive me, I can't remember who's doing it, but someone, I want to say Malx Models, but I could be wrong, he's got a Great Western livery set of wagons coming through. I should probably dig out the email and then I could tell you correctly who's doing it. But yeah, there's all sorts of commissions sort of coming with this, which is really great, I think. Right, so I found the listing. So yeah, Rails of Sheffield, they've got a water department range, including brake van, there's a fuel tank, open wagon, and then 2 flatbeds with bombs on them. The wagon yard is also taking part with its own flatbeds with bombs on them, and these flatbeds, one has the big boy writing as seen on the locomotive, and the other one is Acme, probably a sort of nod to Looney Tunes. D-Rails also got various wagons in the Glamorgan Coal Company open wagon. There's a Somerset cider wagon, there's a Cornwall China clay wagon, and a Midlands manufacturing van. And Light Railway Stores, that's who's doing it. Light Railway Stores is doing the Great Western range of wagons. So they've got Great Western open wagons, closed wagons, and the brake van. So yeah, with the 4Ds pannier, you could probably buy that one, paint that up as a GWR locomotive, and put it with those light railway wagons. You can have like a narrow gauge Great Western line. I know there were narrow gauge Great Western lines, like the Vale Rydal was, and the Corris Railway was taken into the Great Western and that. So, but yeah, you wanted a fictional one, and there's options for you there. So yeah, I think it's great. It's really exciting stuff, and it's nice to see Repeater come in. And again, like I say, it's nice that they've gone for this generic design. They haven't, made it a prototypical so much. They've sort of just catered to how the 009 market works, and it's kind of something I've sort of said, I think, in the past about Bachmann, is it'd just be nice if they just release some of their, like the Quarry Huntlets, as nice as it is to see Britomart and Alice, etc., Dorothea, they look really nice. Just generic liveried Quarry Huntlets, I think, will sell just as well. And, the other thing is, like you mentioned about the Percy chassis. Is there any reason why Bachmann couldn't sell the Percy chassis on its own? Because that would just be the chassis rather than the body, which is the licensed part, maybe? I don't know. Maybe that's a question to ask Bachmann. Can they sell the Percy chassis on its own? Because, Carto and Pico sell their chassis for the Small England on its own, and obviously Rapido are now selling this one as a chassis on its own. So, yeah, I do wonder if Bachmann could do the same. Maybe they could sell the Quarry Hunter chassis on its own. Maybe that's useful for people. I don't know. But yeah, it's looking good for 009 modelling.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a game changer. I was trying to have a look and see if you can get the Percy chassis from the. Oh my God, that's horrifying. I was looking on the Bachmann Spares website, and it's got the Percy motor assembly with the moving eyes by itself, and it's horrifying. I'm going to send a picture to James later.
I've already seen it because I've already gone looking on the Spares website.
Oh, okay.
Percy N gauge bits, and I think they've only got 00 gauge bits on there.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it does look like that. But that's a shame. That would be really handy.
So, I don't know. Yeah, as I say, maybe something to propose to Bachmann. Could they possibly sell these chassis as well? We'll have to see. Because, like you say, the Percy chassis is expensive because you're paying for the Percy, because you're paying the license fee for a body that you don't want. So, if you could buy the chassis on its own, that would probably be better. But
so in terms of, have we got any other news? Because I think it's been quite quiet this week.
yeah, it's been quite quiet. I think Akira says the Class 50s are coming. I'm sure you're excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, not so excited in the sense that I don't have a layout to run it on anymore. But I mean, it is very. Yeah, that.
Take it back. Take it back. He doesn't need it anymore.
Don't send it to me. I don't want it. That's not true.
You were too slow, Akira Scale. Too slow to deliver. And now Sam has changed scales. He was that disappointed.
Yeah, solely that reason. Please don't hate us, Akira Scale. We'd love to get you on. Cool.
If anyone is after a Class 50 in Network Southeast livery and missed out on what the Akira Scale had to offer, I know someone who might have one for sale soon.
That's
How can they contact you, Sam?
If you're after anything, just drop me a message. I might have it. That's probably the best way to word it.
Sam's Model Stores. That's it. We've now found a way to replace eBay. You just tell us what you're selling, and we'll just announce it on here, and we can avoid those pesky buyer protection fees that eBay has decided to slap on everyone.
But
So,
do you know what? My one stipulation is that if anybody wants to sell anything, you have to tell us a price. One of my biggest bugbears is when you have a price for something and you know it because you're selling it. And then when someone says how much you're selling it for and you say, make me an offer. Nah, you know in your head what price you want for it, but you're hoping that that person offers you more than that.
that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I've been trying to sell a few things on Facebook Marketplace, and there's things that annoy me on there. I mean, there was one guy that he obviously decided to not commit to the purchase by the fact that the message he sent me was only half complete. So I just knew that he wasn't going to buy it because he couldn't even be bothered to fill out the whole message. Is this DCC ready or? And that was it. I assume he was going to ask, is it DCC fitted? But just couldn't commit completely to the question. And yeah, that was that. Or like you say, or the ones that what's your best price? And you kind of like, I think I'm already selling it at a pretty good price actually. But you might make them a little bit of a better offer, and they don't reply. Nothing. It's just not even a no, thank you. There's no need to be rude. You know what I mean? Just ghost you.
Yeah.
It's like a dating app, allegedly. I don't know. I never used a dating app, but
We're too old for that, James.
that's it. I had to go out in the wild and meet my wife. None of this checking her out beforehand. Try before you buy nonsense. No. Right. Shall we go on to this week's subject?
Yes, what are we covering, James?
Well, it's funny that we've been talking about, having a go at kit building or scratch building 009 logos because I thought we could talk about, and if someone did ask for it, kit building or scratch building, or ready to plant, or just the whole general thing, really.
Ooh. That's lovely. Ooh. 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 Yeah, look at that. That's dirty. That is filthy.
Sir, you can't get that out right now. Not in the middle of a dinner party.
Why not? I want to show it to all of my guests.
I'm afraid it's just not appropriate, sir.
Nonsense, Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that.
I say, has he whipped out his dirty shunter for us all to see? You can get your models weathered by Emperor's Path using just the airbrush for a light dusting, or alternatively, oil paints and airbrush to add that extra depth. Contact Emperor's Path on Instagram at emperors_path, or alternatively, emperorspathcontact@gmail.com. Emperor's Path Weathering. If it's not dirty, let's fix that.
Only Emperor's Path makes it that dirty.
Right then, Sam. Well, this week I thought we could talk about, and it was already planned, but someone asked for it as well. So it was like, oh, that's good. We've actually planned to talk about this. Kit building, scratch building, or even ready to plant, and just general model railway of the world of making things, I guess. I think it's quite interesting that you've moved over to TT because I think you are about to wander into a world of kit building and scratch building to get the things that you want. Would you feel that things might be going that way for you?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the things that held me off going to TT. I mean, it didn't hold me off long enough, clearly. But I think it's one of the bits I was aware I'd have to venture into an area that I'm not as au fait with. But I know I've got you as a friend who I can sort of approach for advice and ask if I'm doing something wrong or right and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an area I'm not good with, but I'm almost looking forward to doing it. So I guess this comes at a really good time because there's going to be a lot of things that I can't get that I would have possibly been able to get in Double O, which I don't think I'll be able to necessarily get in TT for quite some time. I mean, the first thing that pops to mind is that TMD maintenance depot that Bachmann have done for years, the 2-lane one that resembles Old Oak Common for quite some time. I'd love to have something like that on a layout. I don't think it's available in TT right now. I think maybe Railway Laser Lines do the body shell for it, but that's something I'd have to sort of look at down the line for.
So I think it's Malk's Models have commissioned Bachmann to do some TT buildings. And I think they do the single road depot off the top of my head.
Yes. Yeah, they do the single lane one that looks a bit like a washer shed. But they haven't done that sort of particular maintenance depot, which I mean, I think it's one of the best staples that's in the Bachmann Scene Craft range, and I think you see it on so many different layouts because it's such a good ready to plant model.
Mhm.
But I like the fact of having seen your TT build of where you basically scratch built everything, including your depot and stuff like that. I think it's something that it will take a bit of time, but I think I could get used to doing it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's I think it's a commitment to it. If you want something and you want to make it, it's just finding the time to dedicate it to it. And I obviously do a lot of scratch building because I really enjoy scratch building. And I think the world of scratch building has changed and evolved into ways that there's so many different methods you can do now because you don't have to get card or plastic sheet and a ruler and measure it all out. You can design it on a computer and 3D print what you need. It's or you've got a laser cutter. You can design a kit out of that and how build something to yourself. So you're talking about that Bachmann depot that you want. There's obviously other options for you now out there of how you could obtain that depot because you could use the design and build something similar yourself, and there's all these options there for you.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's one of those things like seeing what people can scratch build. I mean, prime example is your little row of shops that you've done for your 009 layout. Like nobody's going to have something like that. You have created that yourself. You might have bought some kits and then added on top of them, but that is specifically something that you have and will be on your layout, and no one else will be able to create that exactly.
Yeah. That's what's nice about them because, like, yeah, it's a bit of a funny one because we're sort of saying, is it kit build or scratch build? And the shops that you mentioned, well, actually, they're both because they start off as these petite properties laser cut kits, and they're just a generic shell that you, as the builder, then decide what it's going to look like. And you can use brick paper, or in my case, I've used embossed plastic card, and you can make them your own, and you can adapt them, you can style them, and like you say then no one else has anything like that on their own layout. And I think that's the nice thing about kit building and scratch building is I suppose it's more on the scratch building side of it rather than kit building. But I mean, they can still be different using a kit. Is that those buildings do become unique because we'll go back to that depot that you mentioned. How many layouts do you think you've seen on YouTube where you've seen that diesel depot shed?
So many, and also at shows as well. So it's there are certain things that are just you see them over and over and over again, and it'd be lovely to see ones that have had little bits and bobs done to them. But obviously, I'm saying that as someone who's just admitted that I'm not a scratch builder, so I haven't done it myself. So why should I expect anyone else to do it?
Yeah. I think the other thing is obviously bear in mind health and safety people. If you are planning to adapt and start cutting up a resin building, you need to wear the proper dust masks and breathing apparatus because you do not want that stuff in your lungs. So, I mean, maybe that's why these buildings all do look the same because people are sensible enough not to start hacking them with a razor saw. But I think sometimes you see them painted a different color, but otherwise, like you say, you tend to see the same buildings on layouts, and it sort of I think sometimes it takes you away from the layout in its realism because all of a sudden there's something generic there, a bit like it's a pre-populated background that's appeared in a video game kind of sort of scenario. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
So yeah, I'm either I like doing both. I do like building a kit. I think kits are fun. I think they're enjoyable. I think it's a good way to spend a bit of time. I think they're quite relaxing personally. And like you say, you can add that own unique touch to it because you don't have to make the kit the way they designed the kit. If you're feeling brave enough, you can do what they like to call kit bashing, and just start hacking at the parts and making it something your own. And I've done that quite often. I tell you the kits I really think are great for kit bashing is the Daypole kits that they don't cost a lot of money. They're about £10 to £20. You can get like the houses, shops, church, there's a crane. I mean, I've bought a few of those cranes, the dockside crane, just for parts because they've got so many useful parts on them for scratch building. I just I buy them for the parts and then keep the parts in my scrap box for when I do need something. But I've taken the Daypole church and I wanted a church on my Ford Din Rid layout, and the kit wouldn't fit; it was too big. So I just hacked away at it. I've cut the middle section out and then shortened the length of the church and redid the roof. Scratch built my own roof to go on top of it, and what was once a generic kit that might look like kits on someone else's layout now is an individual church that no one else has got. It also, because I didn't cut it very well, it's a bit wonky, so it looks like a very unique building and more realistic because it's not just it's straight lines and angles. It's got a bit of a wobble to it. So
So I think the thing with scratch building, and I think for me, I mean, we're talking scratch building, kit building, and stuff like that. I've said before, I really like building MDF kits. I feel like they are um, the in between the cardboard Metcalf kits. And once again, don't get me wrong, I really like the cardboard Metcalf kits. It's where I started building scenery when I got back into the hobby. All those sort of things. The bridge on Port Creek, that is still a Metcalf kit, and it's held its own. I feel like MDF kits sort of like that really nice in between where you can get the laser cut kits. They've got a little bit more durability to them, and I feel like they have a little bit more substance to them because you can get the brickwork on them has it's been cut into the MDF, so you have a little bit of life in there. How do you feel about using MDF kits on your layouts compared to the cardboard, or would you always look at doing it where you're scratch building on top of these kits to make them your own? How do you feel about that?
I think the Metcalf kits they are the most dominant ones out there. There are other manufacturers, and I think Super Quick is another one. It's obviously an older one. I don't think Super Quick is quite to the standard of Metcalf, but they're not bad. And I know there's newer companies sort of trying to come through that sort of to match Metcalf, but obviously Metcalf are sort of the kings of the cardboard kit, really. I think they're great. I think they're great kits to start with, but like you say, they have their limitations, and it depends how detailed and realistic you want your world to be. And I like to have weathered buildings, and I find weathering a Metcalf kit is quite difficult. You can use powders. That is usually the best way to weather it, but it's very, very easy to go too heavy with a powder, and you'll find it's very difficult to remove the powder off that kit. But there are Metcalf do put out like dioramas of what people have built with their kits, and it's like the castle one, I think, with like a town in the middle of it, one they did, but that's quite incredible. And you can adapt them. That's everything with Metcalf. They do offer the builder's sheets with matching brickwork, so that you can adapt these kits to suit your layout and suit your design. So again, you're not following a generic design that sort of dictates how your layout will look, and it will end up looking just like everyone else's. It can be adapted, but I definitely like I think they're good for a start, as I say, but I'm definitely more of a I'd pick an MDF kit because the MDF kit I can paint that myself, I can weather it, and yeah, I quite enjoy them. So um, I've built, I mean, on the layout I'm building at the moment, I've done the Pico engine shed, which was I think it was plywood rather than MDF, and they're great. They're really sturdy buildings. They've got nice bits of detail on them. They go together really well. You can paint them quite easily, and you've got nice kits. I'm trying to think what MDF kits I have built. I definitely have built some. I know I've built a signal box. It's a laser line signal box. And again, like you say, that brickwork, the fact that the laser cutter can mark the brickwork out in it, and then you can paint it, and you can put the mortar in it, it it adds that extra layer of realism to the kit, and I think it makes it so much more satisfactory.
I I agree. That's the simple way to sort of say it. So let's. I always do this to you when we have these sort of discussions. But if I was going to say, okay, right, James, if I was going to buy a ready to plant kit, if I was going to buy an MDF or a kit that you build, that is a kit, but it's almost not scratch building. And then if I was going to start with something as a scratch build, can you give me an example of which of those you'd recommend for those who are new into the hobby and how they would start building scenery? Because sometimes it's very easy for us as hobbyists to start a layout and we can just end up with just the layout with no scenery on it. Like, how do we break into this to be able to create something special for our layouts?
I think it all depends what you're modeling, doesn't it? I'll just sort of go for a generic answer in what you could place in your layout because obviously it depends what you want to build. Like I said, if you wanted a kit, but sort of make it unique and your own, like I said, the petite properties that I've done, the shops where they're just the MDF and then you add the finishing touches to it by picking the brick paper or whatever you want to use to cover it. I'd probably recommend something like that. There are other companies that's similar to it. There's another one on eBay. I think they're called. I think it's like Affordable Properties or something like that. I can double check the name of it. Fair Price Models. That was it. Fair Price Models. That's another one that's been recommended to me. They're roughly about the same price as the petite properties, but different styles of building. And again, it's that just building a kit and then adding your own finishing touches to it. I think it's a good starter. It's difficult because for if you were just starting out, something like that. I think if you look at the laser cut wooden kits, I don't think you can really go wrong with whatever you choose to do. Maybe something a bit more simpler, like a small signal box, rather than something with lots of steps that require a bit more work to it. The JS Models canal kit's quite a fun one to start off with. I felt that was a good kit. That was a very good kit, and the instruction manual was very good with it. I describe it like a Lego manual. It was that comprehensive, and the parts went together really well, and it was all really detailed and explained. If you're scratch building, I'm not sure what I'd recommend to start off with. I mean, Pending Museum, they like to do what they call the privy test, where if you want to be a builder for them, and to prove how good you are, you have to build a little outside toilet. And they've got a whole cabinet full of outside toilets that people have built to show their modelling skill. So I don't know, but I don't know what to recommend for maybe just a house, maybe your own house. Or if you're on YouTube, maybe not your own house because then that kind of gives away which house you're living in, and people can work out where you live. So maybe do like what Horsey did and did his old house.
That is a good way of doing it.
I don't know, scratch building. It all depends what you want, really. But I think a nice, easy, boxed shape building is probably the best place to start. But don't dive into something really complex and complicated. Sort of when you watch Everard Junction and what he builds, because he uses is it a Creative Cutter or whatever it is. That's another
Cricut machine.
That's it. I mean, that's great, isn't it? That machine that must save so much time and energy in cutting out windows and holes. By using that machine. I think that's a great idea. But obviously, what he's building is quite complicated. I mean, he built those office blocks based on the ones at Swindon Station to the side of his layout. I remember him building them, and they look fantastic. And having driven past that building for many years of my life, it's instantly recognisable in his layout. But I wouldn't recommend to a starter to have a go at that. I'd probably say, just try and do something small like a house. I maybe start with card and brick paper and sort of have a go with that, or maybe emboss sheet. So what I like to do is when I scratch build is I work with, and it's similar style to Pendant, with mount board. So I will build my main structure with mount board. It's cheap. You can just buy it in big A2 and sheets from somewhere like Hobbycraft for a couple of quid. You get a lot of material out of it. You can buy smaller sheets if you want to work in a smaller size and you don't want to have all that material. But I tend to draw out what I'm going to build with that. That's then the main basic shape, and then I'll use embossed plastic card and cut that to shape, and then glue that on around the outside, and then sort of use filler to fill up any joints and that, sand it all down. And that's sort of my main go-to for building materials. But I've also built things I'll say complete with card. So if you watch my video where I build the goods shed for my 009 layout in RID, I basically decided I wanted to do like a Pendon style building because if you ever visit Pendon and see how they make these things, they do the same. They use the mount board, they'll draw the shape out of the building on the mount board. They will scribe the brickwork into the card, which is just incredible. And then they will paint the bricks on individually with watercolors. They look amazing, but it's so much time invested in that and destruction of eyesight, I'm sure. But they look great. So what I have had a go myself in similar fashion. So the good shed I built is mount board card, and then I've used thin card on the outside, and I've scribed it to look like wooden planks, and then I've glued that all around the outside. The roof, again, it's thin card, scribed to look like slate tile, and then it's cut into strips, and then you just glue each strip on top of the next one, like you were building a real roof, the same building method as a roof. And then I've just used balsa wood, more of a decorative part of the build rather than for its structural integrity. But it looks like it's now a wooden framed barn inside with wooden planks around the outside, and that one was I'd say that's a simple build. If you were doing a scratch build, something like that wooden barn wasn't difficult. But it did take a little bit of time. But I think it's worth it when you finish the model and you look at it and I built that, I made that, and like you say, like we said earlier, it's unique. No one else has that. I know that no one else has got that barn on their layout. That's the only one in the world, and I made it.
I think this is where you look at so the thing that's always, and you touched on it, and I think this is the part that's always really put me off scratch building is time. Sometimes it takes a long time to make the things. I mean, you and I were talking beforehand where you spent X amount of time doing one part of your build, but then you actually within a couple of days managed to build something that creates a whole new video in just a very short period of time. And I think I think for me that's why it's daunting, especially scratch building, is you are going to be investing a very, very large amount of your time in order to do these things. And I think that's why it's scary.
Yeah, that's it. It can be daunting, isn't it? And I think it's that idea if you don't feel confident enough with it, or you don't think you've got the skill set for it, you could feel that you've invested a lot of hours into it, and it gets to a point and you've mucked it up, and there's no salvation for that model, and your time's been wasted on it. And I think that's where the kits are important. I think starting out in kit building first, and then moving on to scratch building is the way to go, because you'll pick up a skill set and understand how kits go together, so how you can make it, because essentially a scratch build is just your own personal kit. You are just making the components. So if you build the kits you can buy from shops, you'll get a better idea of how these go together. So if you wanted to follow a path to do that, if you were a complete novice and you haven't done it before, I'd say start with the Metcalfe kit, move on to maybe one of the many various MDF or laser cut kits that are out there. Give something like that a try, or you can try again if you're modeling in 00. Those Daypole kits they're great if you want to use them. They take a little bit of work because they use a very soft plastic and it's quite old tooling, so sometimes there's a lot of flash on them or the parts are a little bit bent out of shape. But again, it's just learning how to manipulate the material to suit your needs and work it all back into place. A bit of warm water will always sort of sort your bowed plastic out. And once you've picked up skill sets by building those kits and you've practiced painting buildings as well, because that's the other thing, you could spend hours and maybe you've got the skill set to build it, but then you might paint it and then the painting doesn't go the way you want. And again, you feel like you've wasted your time and you've ruined hours and hours of hard work, and it's all been spoilt by the paint job. Again, just by starting off with kit builds like those Daypole builds, they're inexpensive, and again, you can practice your skills of how to paint things, and that's where the laser cut kits probably come into their own, because they do offer like the laser cut brickwork, and you can practice painting brickwork and getting it right that way. And when you're ready, I'd suggest moving on to like the wheels kits that are out there. So I've done one, I've done cottages, and I've got a couple more ready to go. I've got the post office, I've got a water mill. And these kits are interesting because they are essentially scratch builds in a box, because all the components are actually just like the wheels, brick sheets and slate sheets or whatever components they've decided to put in the kit. And you have to cut all the parts out. So you'll have to cut the windows out. You'll have to cut the walls to the right shape to glue it together. So you have to, by following the instructions, you are essentially moving away from being a kit builder and becoming a scratch builder. And I think those kits are probably some of the best kits to use if you really want to hone your skills for scratch building. And once you've mastered one of those wheels kits, you're pretty much ready to go and start scratch building your own stuff.
Nice. That seems like a good advice for anyone who's looking to do any of the scratch building. So let's talk about how, if you were looking to buy one of the ready to plants, or you've had a ready to plant for quite some time and you want to use some of your new scratch building skills, let's say, for example, let's use the TMD depot building as an example. Let's say you've bought that, you think it's a great build, you obviously spent X amount of money on it. How would you recommend, if somebody wanted to start scratch building onto that already existing building that they already have, how can they make it their own? What sort of things would you as a scratch builder use to make that a more individualistic model?
It's curious, isn't it? Again, it depends what you're after, doesn't it? It depends on your modeling period, what you want to model, how you want it to be. But I mean, you can take these buildings and probably convert them into anything. The one person who springs to mind when it comes to having a go at hacking at resin buildings is Underground Eric, because he is not afraid to put a razor saw to one of those buildings. He's that depot building. He's cut down. He built it on the corner of his branch when he had a depot. I know he changes his mind every 5 minutes and what he's building. When he was building the depot on the corner, it was coming off the branch. He had that depot and he cut it down so you could see inside, and it just sat in the corner. I think he's done it to a signal box where he's chopped the signal box up and he's adapted it to suit his layout. I think he's moved the steps around or whatever. He's got a footbridge, which I think is a bit like Trigger's broom in the amount of times he has chopped that footbridge up and then put it back together to keep adapting it to suit his ever-changing plans for his layout. So, yeah, I think it all depends what you're after, but you probably want to go along down probably the plasticard route if you're looking at maybe adapting to the resin buildings. Maybe you could plaster cast parts to go with it. But yeah, I'd probably use plasticard if I was doing that, and minimize the amount of resin parts I was cutting off as well.
I think that's probably one of the harder parts to look at. Maybe I've picked the wrong thing for you to sort of scratch build. The things that popped into my head, and you'll know whether this is a good idea to start doing. So say you do have an already existing piece that you want to make your own and scratch build. Are things like drain pipes, are they easy to do? Because that would be my instant. Obviously, like on locos, we used etch parts to create that sort of 3D effect. So you have nameplates on certain locos, or depot emblems, or power station emblems as just an idea. Is there something that's available in a scratch building point of view that you could do to add on to your building without necessarily having to change too much of it? Let's say, for example, if there was an etched version of the clock that goes up on the top front or anything like that. Is there anything like that that you can use in scratch building? Or is it very much a case of you have to physically build these things yourself using your own ingenuity?
No, Pico supply parts. They've got, in fact, I've got one here. I'll grab it. They're LK78 building components, which comes with doors, windows, guttering, and downpipes. So that's sort of a useful thing. I think their ratio range covers it as well. I think the wheels range also covers it. So there's components through those three ranges that you can use. I'm sure there are other companies out there that also make them. But yeah, sometimes with scratch building, it is sometimes a simple just looking at something and realizing how you can repurpose it as something else. Which is where I go back again to why I sometimes buy those Daypole kits and I'll just buy them for parts because you can look at something and realize, oh, actually, if I cut that up and sort of chop that bit down, I can actually turn this into this. I know I did it quite a bit on my 009 build, where I took that dockside crane and I turned it into a granite loader. So I took the housing of what was the crane itself, that became the loader. The legs that it stood on, that was then put over the track to sit over the wagons. I then adapted the side so it looked like there was a conveyor belt feeding into it. So yeah, sometimes it's just looking at items and just thinking how can I use it, or sort of seeing it from a different point of view, I suppose. But even like the simple things, like you want to make your own drain pipes, just get a bit of brass rod and bend it to shape. If you want to do the parts to hold that onto the wall, just you could, as simple as a small strip of card glued around the brass rod will look like the retaining clip to go to the wall to hold the drain pipe on. Yeah, it's all just looking at components and thinking how you can adapt them.
Nice. Well, that's all sounds, I'm going to say easy, knowing full well that it's not as easy as sometimes it sounds. Is there anything that you think, sort of rounding out this conversation, is there anything you think when it comes to scratch building or any tools that you think might be really beneficial to have when scratch building? I know we talk about tweezers quite a bit and little bits and bobs like that. Is there anything you think, go out and buy this?
Oh yeah, I did. Tweezers, definitely tweezers. A good sharp knife, sort of one of those swan motion style knives with a nice, sets of sharp blades to go with it. Don't keep using a blunt blade, and a decent ruler. I think what's really good, if you get a ruler, you can get metal rulers with the measurements in your working scale. So you can get 00 gauge ruler, you can get an N gauge ruler. I assume at some point you'll be able to get a TT ruler. Obviously, you have to check if it's a TT 3 mil or a TT 120 mil. But yeah, they're I'd say a good ruler, a razor saw. I also have to go with my razor saw. I can't think what it's called now. It's a meter, a meter box.
That's the one that allows you to make sure that you're always cutting down directly or at a 45-degree angle or something like that.
That's it. That's the one. So yeah, that makes sure you're getting the right cuts rather than you letting your saw wander. I've got a small set square, so I always make sure I've got when drawing straight lines, they're actually at the correct right angle. And I always like to use a mechanical pencil as well. I find mechanical pencils are a very good tool, and that would probably be a good set of files as well. Good set of files, and that's probably everything you need: tweezers, knife, files, razor saw, the meter box, the set square, and some good rulers. And the pencil, you're probably good to go. Obviously, you need your various glues, but yeah, tool wise, that's probably everything I'd recommend. I'd say.
Nice.
I can't think of anything else. There'll be something now when we stop recording, and I'll spot it in my toolbox and go, I should have said that. A bit like pin vise drill, something like that.
A pin vise is a great shout as well. I mean, I think for having done years of Warhammer where we convert stuff and bits and bobs like that, I don't know why sometimes I'm so scared to do converting or scratch building when it comes to the model railway side of things, because I have all the tools. I've got pin vices, I've got files, I've got all these gubbins that I've collected over the years. So maybe I just need to maybe take a step back and do scratch building, and maybe I might surprise myself.
Yeah, that's it. Just find something small and just give it a go and see how it turns out. And if it's a small job, like I say, if you start off with something small, like a little house or something, they don't go right. It's not the end of the world. If you invest in your time in an office block and you're halfway through it and you realise it's gone completely wrong, then that's probably not the right way to start. But one other tool that does spring to mind whilst we sort of swing back around to tools, I have an old compass, like a from a school set, and that I use that for scribing, marking card and scoring card and that's one of the most useful tools I've got is this compass. So that's another thing I'd recommend.
I think there's a lot to think about here, and maybe we need to do something in the future where we sort of set a challenge to not just ourselves but also to the listeners to maybe sit down and scratch build something. Maybe we have a month where we say this month is scratch building month, and we're gonna ask you to send in something that you've scratch built, but it has to be something that you've scratch built then and there. It can't just be sort of something you did 2 years ago. We all sit down. We spend a month scratch building something together, and then at the end of the month, maybe we share it, and hopefully that'll get people like me out of our comfort zones where we actually might achieve something.
So I can't enter my spinning panel model then.
No, because whilst it's a great model, it won't have been done in that month. I mean, you can. I'm just throwing ideas out there right now. I think the options that we have out there. I think something like that, a challenge where we can all get involved, would certainly be something I'd be really interested in, and especially if we can all attack it at the same time and all do our own little thing, a little bit like this Pico challenge that a lot of you guys are doing. So if that's something you're interested in, drop us a message and we might actually have a look at doing that in the future, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've got to get back on that Pico challenge. I forgot about that. I just saw who else was taking part and just gave up. What's the point? Should we take a break and then come back and do our call out corner?
Yeah, call attention corner.
That's it, call attention corner.
You there? Oh, me? Do you like model railways? Yes, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. Do you like comedy? No, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. If you like model railways and comedy, head over to BugglesKellyStation.com. From Dad's Army to Will Hay, Laurel and Hardy to the island of Sodor. Add a comedy cameo to your model railway today. All right, thanks. Buggles Kelly Station. You won't be wasting your time.
Here we are then, Sam, for Call Attention Corner. And who we got calling attention this week?
So, Call Attention Corner this week is our friends at Demu or DMU Showcase. DEMU Showcase? I hear it pronounced different every time. However,
Demu, they tend to say. Yeah, Demu.
Which is on the 14th and 15th of June.
There we are. Yeah, that's a lovely diesel and electric based model show of high quality layouts, I must say. I've been there 2 years in a row now. They finally started lining their show up with my roster, so it's all worked out nicely. Yeah, some really high quality standard modeling there, all diesel and electric, no kettles, I'm afraid. But still, you shouldn't just not go because there's no steam engines. You should go to appreciate the modeling because, as I say, it's very good modeling. Talking of exhibitions, shall we open up the diary and see what's coming up this weekend?
Yes, let's.
Okay, so if you're listening on the Monday morning when this comes out, of the upcoming weekend of Saturday the 31st of May and Sunday the 1st of June, my lords, we're halfway through the year already, we have the following. On Saturday the 31st, the Corporation Model Trams Blackpool Model Tram Exhibition is on at the Cleveleys Park Methodist Church, West Drive, Cleveleys, Lancashire. Coventry Model Railway Club is having a spring open day at Unit 3 at Coventry Canal Basin Warehouse, Leicester Row, Coventry, West Midlands. And apparently it's their 70th year. Very congratulations to them. Also on the 31st, the Lionel Collectors Club of the UK is having a model railway exhibition and a sales table at the Trinity Methodist Church at Narber Road, Leicester, Leicestershire. Exmoor Coast Railway Modelers is having Exmoor Rail 2025 on the Saturday. This is at the West Somerset Cottage in Bircham Road, Minehead, Somerset. Wessex Narrow Gauge Modelers is also meeting on the 31st with the 50th anniversary Open Day. This is at Abbotswood Community Centre, 14 Abbotswood Common Road, Romsey, Hampshire. Also on the 31st, Sleaford and District Model Railway Club Model Railway Exhibition at St George's Academy, Westgate, Sleaford, Lincolnshire. Gauge Guild is having the summer show at the Grandstand Kempton Park Racecourse, Staines Road East at Sunbury-on-Thames in Middlesex. On the whole weekend of the 31st to the 1st is the Hull Miniature Railway Society Hull Model Railway Show 2025. This is at Prince's Quay Shopping Centre at Prince's Dock Street in Hull, East Yorkshire. And that is all for that weekend. You can tell summer's coming because the shows are starting to dwindle down.
I hadn't thought about that. I was listening. I was like, "Sounds like good show." And but actually, yeah, that's way less than you've had over the last few weeks.
Yeah, May was busy, really busy for shows, especially the weekend before. Maybe because it's bank holiday weekend, I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of shows, including those two in Scarborough, because I think we muddled them up, didn't we? I think the one we said was Peaches wasn't Peaches.
Yeah, we were in the bad books there.
You didn't inform me properly. I know I got the text message as well, but I didn't read it.
Well, there you go. Exactly. See, don't mess up Peach.
That's it. Yeah, don't rely on me to read anything. There we are. That's the moral of the story. I suppose, first things first, if you want to have something called attention to in the Called Attention Corner, whether it be an exhibition or if you just want to talk about your work, tell us what you're doing, what you're up to. If you want someone to come find your YouTube channel, drop us an email at modelrailrp, that's Romeo Papa, at outlook.com. Otherwise, if you want to get hold of Sam and buy his dwindling 00 gauge rolling stock, you can contact him by...
You can get hold of me on Instagram at emperors_path. You can find me on YouTube with sporadic videos at Emperor's Path, or alternatively, you can find me on Facebook at Emperor's Path. James, how can we get hold of you?
You can find me, it's Weston Signalman, on YouTube, on Instagram, and no, I don't have an email anymore, just those two. And that's that. But don't forget that the Model Rail Replacement Podcast is also on Instagram. The Model Rail Replacement Podcast is also on Facebook. And the Model Rail Replacement Podcast is also on YouTube. We've even talked about doing some sort of live stream with a few of our previous guests at some point. So that's probably something you need to subscribe to if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, you just might miss out. Although we might make it Patreon only as well. So you might have to just join that as well. Just saying. Maybe that'd be a good idea to do too. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. We'll be back next week when we talk about another subject. I can't remember what I plan to talk about, so you just have to join us then and find out what it is, and I'll probably find out then too. Apart from that, all I can say is hopefully we've been entertaining, informative, and replaced your model railway, if only just for a little bit. I've been James, and with me has been Sam. Thanks for listening.
This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.
Hello, listeners. We've got some very exciting news. Do you want to be part of the podcast? Do you want to join the team? Well, an exciting opportunity has come up to allow you to be part of the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. And here's Sam with the details.
This episode is brought to you by Patreon. A huge thank you to our Patreons for their support. If you'd like to help support the show, you can head over to Patreon and search Model Rail Replacement Podcast, where you can show your support and be part of the team.
Hurry, there's unlimited places.